earlier, I spoke with sports analyst Alhassan Hussein from Accra, Ghana, for more on the relationship between the World Cup and football in Africa. I began by asking him if there was indeed a need to squeeze CAF's club competition schedule, while there will be virtually no players from continental clubs who are likely to feature in Qatar.
The World Cup is by far the biggest football event on the continent, and so it is right that the world comes to a standstill, or better still, the footballing world comes to a standstill when the FIFA World Cup is here. So in that sense, to give it the maximum attention and to be able to leverage on it as much as possible, I believe that CAF did very well in suspending Africa club competitions. Again, if you want to take it from the other angle, Patrice Motsepe, who is the CAF president, is also automatically the vice president of the FIFA. And so it is in its right sense that Motsepe has taken that step to suspend, the competitions that CAF are organizing on the continent.
Right, and moving on to timing now, with the World Cup coming mid-season this year, do you expect top African players to give it their all in Qatar, knowing full well that the entire second half of a grueling European season is to follow?
I expect African players to give it their all, to give it their best shot. Again, the World Cup is the biggest competition, any footballer would dream of playing in. I've spoken to a number of prominent footballers on the African continent who have not had the opportunity to play, in the World Cup. And till date, it is one of their regrets. You speak to people like Abedi Pele, you speak to people like George Weah. The World Cup is the holy grail for any footballer. And so I expect that once you have taken a step, or a player has earned a call-up into the national team to play at the World Cup, I mean, they're going to close the doors on any other footballing event or any other event in their lives to focus solely on the World Cup. And so I expect that African footballers will give the World Cup their very best shot. And, this World Cup could be an event where an African team finally gets his hand on the trophy. And so I expect that African teams will give it their best shot.
Right, and what does this Winter World Cup then mean for the fortunes of top players such as Egypt's Mohamed Salah and Nigeria's Victor Osimhen, who missed out on Qatar?
I think it's a very big disappointment, especially for Mo Salah, on the back of his performances for Liverpool in the last 2-3 seasons. You'd expect that for all that hard work that he has done, the World Cup will be the stage where, the world finally rises up to embrace Mohamed Salah as possibly one of the greatest players in the history of the game. But I believe that personally he would be, very, very disappointed that his team, Egypt, are not playing in the World Cup. And for Victor Osimhen, he's never played at the World Cup. The qualifiers, they had just a playoff with Ghana to ensure that they qualify for the World Cup. That wasn't possible. They were not able to make it. So for him, I'm sure he'll also be disappointed on the back of a decent, club performance with Napoli, where he got to play in the Champions League. And even this season, he hasn't started badly. So I think it would be a very big disappointment for him, not to be playing in the World Cup this time around, just as it would be for many other players whose teams are missing out from the World Cup.